Spectrosity sounds like what happens to you when you get electrocuted for like so long that like like when you get electrocuted and you like there's that moment where you like it looks like you're blue almost like that's during that time that's spectrosity or some shit. That's what happens. Spectrometry. You measure that with a spectrometer and motherfucker spectrometry off the meter rack.
Off the meter rack.
Huh? That one was cool. No?
You just mixing like unit. You make a little unit
And
pun
meat
there?
rack? Yeah, like meat rack, but meter rack. You know what I'm saying? Hey.
Yeah, you don't.
Why not do that?
Don't do that.
What the fuck? We grew up on that. That's all Bill Nye was. You guys used to watch Bill Nye or no? Bill Nye was literally that. It was goofy jokes, but science skits.
I remember. I watched some Bill Nye back in my time.
Hell yeah. I used to love when that TV card rolled out, boy.
Fuck yeah.
Had that motherfucking VCR strapped to that cart. Did you ever get to see the laser discs? Did you ever have the laser disc come through? Where like the VCRs weren't available, and so somebody pulled out a laser disc from like 1993, and it's like laser discs where they look like DVDs, but they were the size of a record, right? And that's what came before DVD was Laserdisc. And I remember at the high school we went to is the first time I ever saw Laserdisc, where they had a couple of Laserdisc machines, but it like died out in technology. Whoever created it, DVD came out, crushed it, right? Because it was literally like this big of a disc.
I seen him.
Yeah, crazy. But you never had the Laserdisc come through?
No, I didn't. I saw my first laser disc as a grown man. One of my ex-girlfriend's parents had a laser disc player, and then she showed me a laser disc of like, I don't know, Titanic in Spanish or something.
What a weird
it was
technology.
something fucking crazy, boy, and it's thick.
Yeah.
That bitch is like this fucking like thick as fuck, and you're like, what the fuck is this? This shit looks like you took a regular DVD and you put it inside of like the Honey I Shrunk the Kids fucking make them big again laser, and you put it in that shit. Put one of those there. And whoop! It just made you one. You're like, what the fuck? It was crazy. Anyways, yeah, no, I've never seen no shit like that before in my life. VCRs always ate our tapes, and that was as much technology as we had.
Yeah.
Until the PlayStation came out, then I got a PlayStation, which meant I could play DVDs. I remember that was like a changing point.
Did the PS1 play DVDs?
Yeah,
I don't think it did.
Hell yeah, it did.
The
Boy,
first,
what the fuck? Yeah.
I thought the PS2 was the big thing, was when they changed the body style, right? Because the PS1 was the PS1 for a long time.
Oh, maybe it is
And
the
then
PS2.
the PS2 came out and it was
Shit.
that black body.
Whenever
where,
it came
we got
out was when we got
DVDs.
DVDs. Before, all the way up to that point, I was fucking with VHS only.
Yeah, I think that was the two. The big boxy one, too, because they
Hell
ended up
yeah.
redesigning both of those.
That is
consoles
true.
to
And the
way
black
smaller.
one, that makes sense. Yep, I remember we had DVDs. I had Blue Streak on DVD. I had what's the other one? God, what you laughing at, boy?
I've never actually seen a laser disc.
Is it exactly like I described?
It's crazy, right?
What the fuck?
Isn't it exactly what I described?
And picture a VCR like that. That's what goes into like picture a DVD player, but it looks like a VCR with that kind of thing. Like the tray that comes out would be, it was like a DVD tray, but this motherfucker would come out, boom, and you plop that in there.
The bitch had to be made of metal, because look at this shit. Look, it was this fucking thick. Thick as fuck.
That's crazy.
Shit was crazy, B.
Yeah.
You know what else is crazy? Is I don't know where my phone's at. But it looked like it's about 6:10. What day is it?
Today is the Ides of May.
I don't know what the fuck that means. What kind of white people think he just said? Look up what that means in white.
It's very white, dude.
What's
Very,
the Ides
very
of
white.
May mean in white?
I think that's what you call this day.
Ides
white.
of May.
Look, boy, you start talking about moons and stuff. All right, I hear you. But,
Not tides, dude. Ides.
yeah, that's what I said. I'm just talking about I understand moons, B.
No, that's
Different cultures.
the middle of May, approximately May 15th.
Is that what today is?
Today is May 15th.
It's a fucking Ides of May. That is the
Ides of
whitest
May.
thing that's ever happened in this undisclosed location.
That's
And
some
I've watched
Shakespeare by
I've
dude.
watched fly fishing videos that are like 3 hours long of these cats just walking out into the middle of nowhere, fly fishing, not talking. They're just hitting and not hitting. I watched their entire thing the same way little kids watch other motherfuckers play video games. That's kind of white, right?
Kind of white.
That's kind of white. That's
Was
the
anybody
Ides
you
of
were
May.
watching not white?
Huh?
Was any of the people you were watching not white?
Probably not. Probably not.
Pretty white.
That's what I'm saying. And still, the Ides of May, that takes the cake.
I don't know. That's Shakespeare.
That
Or at
boy
least
white
why
as
I
hell.
know it. I mean, yeah, he is
Oh,
white as hell.
Your
but-
representation of white history.
Yeah, I don't know much about Shakespeare, nor like
That's a weird way to talk about it. Sorry.
white history.
Yeah.
I mean, that is what we
is
perceive
what
as
it
most
is.
history we get from like public schooling or any general schooling. You get a lot of just white history.
Well,
Which
it comes
stinks.
to us and they call it history too, and then other stuff is called Black history or they call it like the Native Americans history or their stuff.
Right.
They call it like these things, but history to them is whatever but that's white history, right?
Yeah, history is
Oh,
written
yeah.
by the conquerors, right?
Oh yeah.
You know, also you want to know what's also white history?
What is white history?
This little PBR hard coffee.
Holy shit. Well, let's talk about that in 3 seconds, but it's May 15th, 2020. My name is Justin. Huh? To my right, your left, that's going to be Steven.
Yo,
Across from us, always producing Eric.
There's a dumpster fire over here. That's where the smoke is coming from.
There's a fire extinguisher right behind you. Don't even trip, because it's the Lone Ranger versus Tonto up in this motherfucker. And, I got the fire extinguisher on deck because shit gets fiery sometimes. But right now, we about to talk about this hard coffee, you said. What the fuck? What are we doing with that?
We brought it up last podcast. It's supposed to taste like Yoo-hoo. So we just wanted to give a little sample of it.
yeah, I never had any kind of intention to try this beer. And then you were like, I'm going to find it. Or Justin was like, they got there. Or you said they had it at the liquor store. And I was like, I guess I'm trying this beer. And I love PBR, but this was a little bit beyond my interest of drinking. And,
Well,
yeah.
you know what? Most of the stuff you bring is beyond my interest of drinking.
Sure.
So,
Welcome to the club, I guess.
welcome to Guy Spencer's Beer Corner.
Yep. Yeah.
I feel like it needs a different name since I brought it.
Yeah, what is your name?
I think it's Eric.
I think it's
I mean, you're not strong with names. We
How
learned
do
that
you
in the
spell-
DJ episode? But
I mean, the question is, how do you spell this? Whatever that sound is spelled out, Beer Corner.
We're gonna figure that out. In the meantime,
it could be B. All right.
that no lie tastes exactly like you. That's hard as fuck. Shout out to PBR for stealing the Yoo-hoo recipe from whoever makes Yoo-hoo, Hershey's or.
We finally got it. Nestle, I think.
Got it.
We finally got the recipe for Yoo-hoo. Now all we have to do is mix it with some carbonated alcohol water and call it hard coffee. Blue Ribbon, Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Sold.
He's got it. It definitely tastes. for
Open
me,
and shut case, Johnson.
It tastes like them bottled Starbucks drinks that you can get, the Frappuccino ones. It tastes like that.
All the vanilla, yeah.
There
just
is
tastes a little like
no alcohol presence for me at all. Like, it doesn't taste like I'm drinking a beer. It doesn't taste like I'm drinking any alcohol. It tastes like I'm just drinking one of them sweet Frappuccino. It has that like kind of fake sugar, like aftertaste. You guys don't get that in your mouth where you get this like weird coating of like a in your mouth from this? You guys don't get that?
It's kind of like if you melt a chocolate and it just kind of like settles on your tongue and like hardens a little bit. That's what it feels like.
You ever been to Vegas?
Yeah.
You ever been to Vegas, Eric?
Driven through it.
All right. So in Vegas, there's all kinds of spots on the strip and then like in the malls and all kinds of like walk by kind of spots where you can get these sugary ass alcoholic beverages in these tall ass things. They come in all these different flavors. Woo de woo blah blah blah. Pineapple, strawberry. You get to mix them. There's a sour one. All kinds of goofy shit, right?
Yeah, you can just bounce with them too, right? In
oh
Vegas,
yeah.
You can bounce with them.
You walk one. Fun fact about that. It's actually not legal to walk on the streets in Las Vegas with alcohol with an open container. They just won't do anything if you're on the strip. But technically, as far as the city's concerned, it's against the law still. But they will never do anything to you on the strip. If you walk like a few blocks off, they'll hit you like, hey, fool, where you walking around like?
Yeah,
You going to Airbnb or something? What the fuck? What you doing?
What stays in Vegas stays over there.
Anyways, the point is they got these sugary ass drinks like that, right? And they got them all different kinds of flavors. One of these places one time had a chocolate one, and I tried it, and it's like a chocolate slushy-ish. So it's not like chocolate, like it's like baked chocolate. It's like this. So, and it tastes exactly like this.
Chocolate, yeah.
It probably had about the same amount of alcohol as this too, and you could taste the alcohol in this the same way that I could taste the alcohol in that joint from Vegas, where it's like all that sugar and the alcohol don't mix, so you get it like really sweet, and then the alcohol like sits on top of it instead of mixing in with it. You know what I mean? And that's how to me that tastes like Hangover City, and that's what my brain knows that for. That I'm gonna get a hangover, so I'm gonna slam this. But
heck, I might.
You know what I mean?
I don't want to have to fucking endure this longer. This is not my thing.
Well, here we go. Salud.
Salud.
Yeah, it has like that. The alcohol kicks in when you chug it.
Yeah, I definitely got it in the sip before Justin said that. I like tried to focus on it, and it's not like a normal alcohol thing.
Maybe it doesn't mix in. Like it's not.
Oh man, God, miserable.
I regret it. No,
I don't regret it. I just didn't feel like drinking it.
Yeah. Speaking of Las Vegas, have y'all heard about the tunnel people?
The tunnel people.
The tunnel people. Steven?
Nah, man, I don't know what you're
If
talking
you don't
about.
hurry up and start telling me about these tunnel people, boy.
There are communities of people that live under Las Vegas in the storm drains.
Legally or
The city doesn't do anything, but there's whole communities of people living down there.
I like Las Vegas' style. Where they're just like, no harm, no foul. We're just not getting illegal, yes, but
the city's just
I think it's like homeless people, dude. Like,
yeah.
What can you do?
It's the one place where like they can have a home. They're just living in constant fear that it's gonna rain and they're gonna get flooded. Yeah.
Fuck. They're like mole people.
that's wild. I didn't know
wild
that.
as fuck.
There's
I bet they live a lot easier though too. It's hot as fuck out there. I bet underground at least it's tolerable for like if you don't have a home to be in.
Sewers though, come
Shit.
on. You tell me it don't stink like boo boo down there? That's where the boo boo go. It's made for boo boo. That's what it's made for.
Once you're down there for 5 minutes, your nose goes blind to the smells. That, like, I mean, that's sad to like that your nose is going blind to sewer boo boo smells, but if you're in like 80-degree sewer life versus 120-degree street life in Las Vegas in the middle of August, like I probably would endure the smell, so I could like drop 40 degrees off my like ambient temperature. Like if I had to be outside, they have to be outside. They don't got a place to go inside. There's no AC, and it does get like 110, 120 out there.
I hear you. If you didn't have a home, would there be a piece of you that felt nomadic? Like, I feel like if I didn't have a home, there'd be a point where I was like, fuck it then. Then I don't have a home then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't got a job. I don't got no reason to even be here. I'll go somewhere else.
Hell yeah.
You know what I
get
mean?
that,
I
yeah.
definitely wouldn't go to Vegas. It's hot as fuck. I definitely wouldn't go somewhere cold either. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to
See, I think a lot of people
to Billings, Montana or nothing either. Like
a lot of people end up in those situations where their intention is not to be homeless in those places. They just become homeless due to the circumstances they get in, or they might like I've talked to so many homeless people around like where they couldn't get an opportunity for a job from where they're from. So they heard somebody said they could get them a job somewhere. They move out there. It don't work out. And then they're on the streets. They don't know what to do. They got skills, but they don't have the skills to get them to the point of getting to the place where they can show their skills. Like
I hear
stinks.
you. No, I'm not. Yeah, that's awful. Anyways, so what do you do about that? Obviously, besides, there's all kinds of shit you have to fix before people like that are taken care of in a sense. So in the meantime, where do they go? Have you been to LA?
Not in a long time.
Have you driven down Santa Fe?
I've been to Denver, yeah.
Boy, you drive down Santa Fe and you're starting to see little mini tent cities, and they're real small, but they're there. And what's crazy is like when I was in LA, boy, you drive through that motherfucker, and when you're on the highway, every single underpass has a tent city. Wow. And then over the top is, if there's multiple layers to this bridge, and boom, tents all the way down the sidewalk on both sides. Like, people, dude. We're talking about, that's got to be fucking 50 people at each of these little joints. Some of them, and then some of the big ones, you get like hundreds of people. When you get downtown, there's literally, you hit the wrong street, and it looks like you left the world, and you entered. You left America. Else. Yeah.
That's wild. And
well, the world that you were just in is what I meant by that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, here you are in this world right here, and you take another step. Like, it's like changing. It's like that drastic, and you're like, holy shit.
And then like 2 blocks down the road is $100,000 cars.
Oh yeah,
it's weird.
Yeah. So the crazy part about what you're saying, I think, is
that was
good.
Did I fuck it up? No, that was good. That was way better than I expected.
Fuck
God
you.
Damn.
Damn. All right, but the crazy part of what you were saying is that the homeless population is incredible down there in LA, and they have even more houses that are vacant out there because of the price of real estate out there is just astronomical and been blowing up and blowing up. And to think about that, there's 50 to hundreds of people under every overpass out there, and that there's
a gang of motherfuckers,
right? And that there's more houses vacant because like they fucked it up. And the thing is, like, Denver's right on its way to going into that same.
But what do you do?
Place? Like,
so, because I don't have a good answer either.
It's hard. Like because homelessness is a problem that is like, it's not a problem that's a problem by choice, right? Not many. Not saying that there isn't. Not many people are choosing this lifestyle, and there are people who do. I understand that, but for the most part, those motherfuckers are out there because of circumstance, and a lot of those motherfuckers are out there and abusing some kind of drugs, whether it's alcohol or whatever it is. And really it's mental help that they need. They need some like support. They need, the necessities of life, like shelter, like food, those things that we don't provide for our displaced populations of people, especially in Denver. And like, we turn to the police in Denver a lot to manage this thing. And
so what do we do about it? I don't think that's, I think that's trash. So what do we do though?
What do we do in terms of the homeless population? Or what do we do in terms of the real estate problem?
The homeless population, the real estate problem, whatever one is going to fix the homeless population. We're worried about the people first.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are like, I think there are like the, utopian solutions of, just we're going to make, I don't know. I think there's just solutions that are like dream-worthy solutions. That's like, yeah, that's cool. We could talk about putting all these homeless people into houses and like filling the vacant spaces with homeless people, but it's just not going to happen, right? Like, if there's more vacant space in LA than there are homeless people, but homeless people number in the hundreds of thousands, I believe, in LA, and the solution that seems easy is to just like toss these people in all these vacant spaces, right? Like, it's not that we have a lack of space. There's a breakdown in like capital of being able to live in a spot and be able to be employed by places that can pay a wage that can live there.
California homeless statistics is quoting 151,000 homeless people.
And those numbers are always,
In California?
always really, really low because it's really hard to count homeless people. And there's lots of nonprofits all over the country that deal with this shit where they will just sponsor programs where they just go out and count how many homeless people they can find in these camps to try and get a good number.
None of this says, what do you do, man? We know there's a gang of them. It's a problem.
Right.
What do you do?
Well, it's.
Have you ever heard of any good ideas?
Just, like full on Marxist communism, but I don't think we're ready for that.
Okay, so what realistically then?
And so I think, again, realistically, like I was trying, I think that when we're moving forward in where we're going in this world, and I'm not sure exactly where we're going, but we are in need of a change, right? Like there's going to be a pretty big significant shift due to climate change, due to everything that's going on now. There's going to be a pretty big shift in climate around the whole world, but also, climate in terms of like how we feel, not the weather and, that stuff. But I think that there's going to have to be some kind of movement around workers or transition of workers into something else of, we're going to have so many oil employees. We're going to have so many employees that need to still make money and transition into what the future will be in, think 10 to 15 to 20 years, because we already see oil struggling right now because Saudi Arabia, one country, decided to just tank the price of it, and it's killing jobs across America because we can't survive at this price.
Is that a good or a bad thing?
It's hard for me. I have family in the oil industry, right? Like that work for these companies that he's taking pay cuts every month. And then again, it's a dead technology, and I let him know that all the time. And
well, isn't that what a dead technology needs? Is an incentive for somebody to innovate the technology. And that was the only reason that why it's never been that before, is because while we have other technologies that you can use to power stuff, the cheapest one and the one that's made the most money has been petroleum.
Right. And so what do we do about all these homeless people? And what I'm trying to get at, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, boy, you're ranting about petrol.
But I think if you can establish some kind of guaranteed work with the government in terms of, and that's the beginning of socialism, right? Where there's enough production happening. Yeah, I know. Fucking scary.
I'm ready to eat the rich.
There's nobody more scared of socialism than the United States. Check Venezuela over the last fucking year and recently. Did you guys see that shit?
Hold on, but I did see their government doing some hella questionable, not even questionable, hella unheard of things to their people that were protesting.
Let's talk about that, but let's continue with this other socialism shit, because it does tie in.
Boy, that's
it
some
does,
fucked up shit.
but it's not what it might not be what you think. Might not be what you think.
Hey man, it's the popo hitting motherfuckers. It was whatever they have. Here they use batons. Sometimes they shoot these motherfuckers. There they were shooting motherfuckers with all kinds of stuff, smacking motherfuckers with all kinds of stuff.
But well, like
using
I
all
said,
kinds of
can we come back to this?
military
I would have continued down this socialism route, but I do want to talk about Venezuela.
But isn't that what you just did? You the one who took it that way, and that's what socialism mean. But hey, go ahead and talk about it in this light.
Right on. Thank you. So when you talk about socialism, it's about starting to, take some means of production, like the big things that we produce, things, especially things that we need, like essential needs we need workers for. Think of healthcare. Healthcare should be something that is overarching for everybody. Everybody gets it. And then we should have the workforce appropriate for that, right? And I'm not talking that we can just toss, whatever person that is living on the street into a position in nursing. But I'm saying we have to have a shift in workforce environment that if you flip a switch overnight and now it's provided for every person. When you just added in, what was it, LA or California alone, 151,000 patients. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't mean to say that again, where do we get this money? Of course, we could pull it from other things. We could pull it from stuff, but how and what is realistic? That's in the same way that you was saying being realistic about it. Anyways,
but if we could like continue, or if we could create a guaranteed job program around whatever it means, like I don't want to be specific in that, keep it general. If that means energy positions, if that means whatever,
should make shoes,
but
bring the jobs to America.
Shoes, yeah,
make
definitely.
Shoes and iPhones.
We should produce a lot more in America. Like, again, a different conversation, but those beginning like tales of socialism, of communism, where the government is providing more good paying jobs, where people who are in positions where they're like, gosh, I don't know what else to do. They always have this opportunity to get trained, paid to get trained. And then you go into the idea of like, well, is shelter a right? Not housing. I think people like confuse the right of shelter and the right of housing, or the right to like own property as the same thing, but they're way different, right? The right to housing or the right to shelter, I think, is something everybody has, and definitely at least deserves in America, where we live in a country that, is the richest country in the world.
So what do you do? Turn all parking garages into shelters overnight?
I think the transition is a hard thing to get through. And that's not even like, if you always use the transitional period of this to argue against what should we do, we'll never get to the next phase, right? Because we have to like focus on like going
That's
forward.
how you get to the next phase, is doing something.
Right.
Though.
But if you're stopping
just
yourself
talking about
every
it forever,
time,
that's what's wrong with politics now. Is motherfuckers just talk about these fantastical whatever fucking fantastical ideas, fucking and they never actually do anything about them, because there's no plan of action of what to actually do. It's just always like, here's the overall goal of what's going to happen. How are you going to do that? With this bill we're signing. Well, what's the bill do? I don't know. Then they fucking write the bill. It come out that it gives all kinds of money to this and that, and ends up saying pay you $18,000 a person, and we get 1,200 of it, and it's on some nonsense, right?
Hell yeah.
So. Anyways, I don't know what the fuck we do.
I don't know. So the one thing about like our government being the like stopping point, like
decolonize.
Healthcare has been established as a right in the rest of the world for countries like ours, every one of them. And there's a way to figure it out. And that's what I mean. Like, the tripping points of the transition are going to be tough, because our system is so privatized and so like in a headlock politically around these fucking corporations that have too much power in government, because they can lobby for themselves. They can act as a person because of what happened in our lifetime, the fucking Glass-Steagall Act. It's fucking crazy shit. It, what, in my opinion, ruined our, not ruined, but sent our country
I recall what that means, but I feel like we're going down a rabbit hole. And instead, maybe you want to talk about Westbound and Down. Whatever the fuck this is.
Yeah. Let's talk about Westbound and Down.
Or no, were you in the middle of something really fun? Because you lost me. Or maybe I just lost myself. I be getting blazed.
Maybe. But I'm fine with all I want to say is just, give socialism a chance.
Oh, yeah, we were talking about socialism. That's why. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut off your socialism thing. But I did, because I was over it.
I think we're just getting a little too far into
you asked
the
for
world's
solutions,
on fire.
And honestly, those are my honest solutions.
Your solution is I hear you. Okay.
They can't be just like, let's give more money somewhere. Let's do this. Like, it has to be systemic change of like, we can't survive in the capitalist system. Like, I don't like, yeah, we can't continue the way that we are, obviously, like, because it's just getting exacerbated by all this fucking shit going on.
But it looks like it's not changing. So then what do we do? How do we prepare for that?
Revolution, baby.
Is that what it is?
That's what it's gonna be.
Eat the rich. But while you're eating the rich, you can pair it with this really great beer from Westbound and Down.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say a whole thing like a commercial. It was perfect.
Mexican style lagers, definitely perfect for pairing with eating the rich.
Yeah.
Billionaires especially.
The Coloradan.
Yeah.
Coloradan. Is that how you say that?
Now, I don't think this brewery, I don't know anything about the owners, but I don't think they're another
They're white
Latino
as hell.
brewery. They're in
I'm not-
Idaho Springs, Colorado.
White as a motherfucker.
And they do put out some pretty fucking banging beer.
Oh yeah, I bet they knew. I bet they knew exactly what the 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏 were.
The Ides of May. Oh,
I
tight.
bet they looked at their watch and they were like, "Well, gosh darn, it is."
It is the Ides, isn't it?
I know what that is.
Look, honey, they've got our beer.
Oh no, there's a dark
It's
one.
too much for him. It's too much, ladies and gentlemen.
I just got excited about where my mouth actually was.
But yeah, did you see the style of beer on this one,
Hilarious.
Justin?
I saw it go down my chest. Yes, the style of it. What is it? The Mexican style lager?
Well, Mexican style is in one quotation and then lager. Mexican
Yeah, what does
style,
that mean?
Lager. You
That
tell
they
me.
played like chente to it while they brewed it.
Obviously, I represent a different group of folk than who would represent who can say what Mexican style lager means.
I'm
I
the
don't know.
in between and know that they make breakfast burritos and beer to go.
Who does?
But Westbound and Down.
Are
Westbound.
you
and
looking
Down.
at this?
Yep.
On the line. And
On the line.
and that's what they do with these.
What we do is an art. Each element leads the unique. Yeah.
Weird. All right.
So tell me, well, what do you think of this beer on its own, Justin?
That beer. That beer. Let me get a little taste of that beer real quick. Tell me more about the tannins or something. While I get a taste of this beer.
Hey, this beer is wind powered.
Wind powered? Really?
In order to help preserve the natural resources that go into our process, we choose to use wind powered electricity.
Cool. Cool. Westbound and Down. Or is that the name of it? Yeah. I always want to mix it up with Westbound and Down is the HBO show with Danny McBride, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Eastbound
And
Westbound and Down.
wait, what's the name of it? It's something. But I always get them confused. Westbound and Down. That's the name of the brewery. I'm looking at that. But this is a Mexican style lager.
Eastbound and Down.
Eastbound
That's
and
the
Down is
one.
Danny McBride. Westbound and Down is the brewery in Idaho Springs,
Said
Colorado.
too many down in whatever.
Too many bounds and downs is what it is. But I don't know. What do you think of this one? I brought it for a specific reason in comparison to the beer that we had last week.
Oh.
Right? We had last week a classic Mexican style. As much as you can say that, because it's not like lagers are really traditional for Mexico, but the style of lager that ended up there, that was brewed down there, is very like bohemian style or just like, light pilsners. I think this one's a little bit different than the bohemian that we had last week, but like Vienna styles and like light lagers, like all those German people, all those people who moved that beer style into that region and then have been brewing down there this kind of beer for, decades.
Who?
Anybody brewing beer down there, right? Like
Down where?
Mexico. I'm talking about Mexico because this is Mexican
Mexico's a big
style
place.
lager.
Where in Mexico?
All over the place. They brew all over. I mean, beer's made everywhere. I don't know where Corona's made, like where it was originally made. Corona, do you know? I don't think it's like a small place. I think Corona's like pretty big city. Not big city, but
Okay, so
my point.
I'm looking
Yeah,
up
sure, your
Corona
point.
origin right now. Doesn't talk about the beer.
Probably gonna talk about Kings.
No, COVID.
Oh, yeah, that.
you guys ever been sick? You ever been sick before?
No.
You ever have something like, multi-symptom, you know what I'm saying? Like you got like the flu or something. And
As prescribed by the Tylenol bottle. What do you have? Multi-symptom.
I'm multi-symptom in this motherfucker real quick. Because look,
How many
man,
symptoms do you got?
Well, first
Multi.
of all,
At least multi.
First of all, I'm cold. I got the shakes. I got a headache. Right? I'm cold, shaking, ugh, cold sweats and shit.
I can't get
but
up. Is that
I
stuff?
also got the boo boos. Right? Oh shit, got the boo boo. Oh, about to throw up. Oh, got the boo boos.
The
Right?
Bee Gees.
So boom. What do you do about that? Well, you must got the flu. You must got some whatever. Woo-de-woo. So first, take yourself a shot of Pepto-Bismol. Bam. Shoot that Pepto-Bismol real quick. And then you might have some like Dayquil or something. Boom. hit that DayQuil for everything else. And then you need to hydrate, right? So you drink like a Canada Dry, straight up fucking joint. That first sip of Canada Dry, where it like the bubbles all take off the coating of cough syrup and then the coating of Pepto-Bismol, and it mixes up into like this bubbly, bitter, gross water that you have to take. It's always that first one, you're like, ugh, and you got to get it down. And then after that, it starts to taste just like nasty ass water, but you deal with it because you're supposed to be better for you. Or imagine you go to do the same thing, but you got 7-Up, but instead of being 7-Up, they forgot to put the sugar. And that's what this fucking tastes like. Ain't nothing Mexican about this. This is trash.
For once, I agree. This beer sucks. I'm pretty disappointed in this.
This tastes like some shit made by motherfuckers that say tomato.
It tastes like seltzer flavored, like a seltzer flavored with Modelo, like Modelo flavored seltzer for like white people that like want to drink this bullshit. Oh, and like, not to say this is bullshit. Like, I do like Westbound Down. I don't want to like rag on them too hard, but this one's a fucking swing and a miss. My family of fucking people up there.
Maybe ours are fucked up.
No, I don't think these are fucked up.
Look, mine's clear. Is it supposed to be clear? Is it supposed to be a beer? Mexican style lager. Give me a cup.
Even the Mexican style lager isn't dark?
My guy.
The hell?
I know what's up with that, my guy. Will you grab me a cup, my guy? I'm sorry, I'm a little bit.
Fucking topsy-turvy up in here today. Justin asking for a cup to pour his beer into?
I don't want to mess with the shot. I feel like he got the shot really nice, he said. He wasn't trying to fuck it up.
Last one.
Yeah, anyway, yep.
Ooh.
Sure. Oh, extra ass. Let's this shit.
Check out that nucleation I posted about. Watch what's going to go on right here. It's going to be some mad nucleation. Not a bit. Beautiful, Justin. Good job cleaning your glass.
That look like champagne.
That do look like champagne.
We got the champagne and beers in the fridge.
And it smell like
Wait,
Bologna.
for real?
Smell like what?
Bologna.
Smell like bologna? Some bullshit.
A little bit of that colonel.
Just took that down. Took that taste down. 2 ounces.
It doesn't taste good either.
Did you expect it to look like that?
No, I expected it to be even more clear. That kind of looked like a Capri Sun.
Yeah.
Shout out to Capri Sun for, you know.
Big swing and a miss on this
Being
one,
gross.
though. Like, especially like after having last week's, like, not the same style, but at least the same kind of regional, like trying to represent the beer from the region of what was, because like the beer brewed, like I said, like there's lots of immigrants who brought over this kind of beer into that region, but then the people of that region then also end up being like, oh no, we can do this way fucking better and like figure out how to do it, because like a lot of this shit, why it's popular or at least could be made in Mexico, is because of corn, right? Like light American lagers where they moved from Germany where corn wasn't happening to Americas where they put all this fucking shit and we're like, oh shit, we can use corn and like half of this shit can be, that's Budweiser, that's fucking Coors, all of them. And the same thing happened down in Mexico when those same immigrants from those same areas end up down there. But then you get the flavors of those regions too. That's what builds Corona. That's what builds Modelo and all these other brands that get imported into the United States. And this, like I said, is like it almost seems like an insult, to be honest. That's the biggest thing that I don't like about it.
I'm
like,
insulted.
I'm not insulted.
Your shit's
personally.
so gross. I'm fucking insulted, B. Next time I see you, it's fucking heads on sight. These motherfuckers got me heated.
A little bit, because like like I said, it feels like a water flavored or a beer flavored water, where it's like, is that what you're calling a Mexican lager? Like you put it in quotes, like Mexican style, like that you give me a beer that tastes like water with a little bit of fizz and a little bit of beer taste. Like I'm a little insulted on the style and just like being like, that's not. I don't know. I'm just disappointed in, like I said, a little insulted. I don't think that was putting it in quotes like that and then putting a beer out like this makes me think is like you're kind of being
Racist.
like Mexican style lagers are not real lagers. It's
I like
just
the way
like
you kicked them motherfuckers when you said that.
ugh.
Hell yeah.
I don't like that. I don't.
Hella racist ass motherfuckers. I don't be fucking with that either. What's up, Holmes?
Well, also they had to do.
Eric got nothing to say.
It also could be, though, that they had to deal with some heavy competition from 𝗏𝗏𝗏 last week, where that beer was fucking top
Fire,
notch.
but hold up. What's up? That don't piss you off? This ain't, or are we reaching?
Or am I just being an extra sensitive social justice warrior?
No, this is the Taco Tuesday of beer.
It's like the Taco Wednesday. Like, they think they like can just take it and
This
also
is what
change
you
the
want
day.
on Taco Tuesday?
No, this is
What do you want on Taco Tuesday?
not this.
Carta Blanca, maybe some Victoria.
If you like it, that's all right. But I mean, I thought it was basura.
I have a soda stream at the house. I got one.
Basura,
It's cool.
Soda de basura.
Just adding the CO2 to water tastes better than this.
Dude,
It's a little sweeter. Like you get more from just CO2 than whatever
listen, I
else.
want you
they
guys to
add
close
this.
your eyes right now. Everybody take a second with me. Take a mind adventure with me. Here we go. Close your eyes. Imagine you have the flu and you just took a shot of Pepto-Bismol. Now Pepto-Bismol layers your fucking mouth up and has you tasting like that for goddamn ever until you first drink of anything. Now imagine that first drink is soda water, and that's what this beer tastes like. Shit.
I don't get the like bismuth reference to the beer.
You don't get that like weird chalky Pepto-Bismol taste?
Nope.
Ugh. It tastes like fucking candy cigarettes
Aspartame.
in a bad way. Remember candy cigarettes? Used to be fucking bomb. I used to love them things.
Yeah. Yep. Gosh.
Them shits were crazy. They even were
It's
like
crazy.
they painted them red on one end.
I know I had them too. I used to go to the corner store when I lived in Minnesota. I was like biking distance to a little corner store that I'd always go down there and pick up a pack of candy cigarettes. And I don't know, I liked them because they were just like a stick of sugar, right? Like they were the easier, like what Chico stick, or not Chico sticks, the Fun Dip. Remember the Fun Dip? Like those were like the super compressed sugar sticks.
Yeah, well, they were like 20 cents is what it was. They were like 20,
And they came in
40
like a
cents.
pack of like what looked like an American Spirit box from what I remember. Maybe that's just like.
Oh, all different kinds. There would be like 5 different kinds of candy cigarettes.
Yeah,
And
and
they'd all
I
be the
remember I
same,
used
you
to
know.
just like put them in my teeth and like carve out little things, and they look like the banister on my house.
Yeah, they were made of the same thing that they melted to make Pepto-Bismol.
Sodium bicarbonate, chalk, and sugar, and that's probably it. I mean, and Pepto-Bismol is also like the main ingredient or the main element in Pepto-Bismol is bismuth, right? Like that's a like. I don't even know what part of the fucking chart it's on, but that's an element. It's what it's named for, right? It's
Is that what they call it, Bismol?
Yeah.
Bismuth?
Well, it's a compound of bismuth with some other shit, which is what like solidifies your shit. But it's also like
Bismultanium.
bismultanium.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really rare. They can't put that.
Yeah, no, they mine
It's just
that
a little
from,
bit.
like-
That's what makes it pink is the bismultanium.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
get that from the top of Mount Everest.
Yep, right at the top. Right at the top. That's why so many people
Motherfuckers-
climb it.
Well,
That's why so
motherfuckers
many
died
people
trying
climb
to get
it.
there and shit. Motherfuckers
Yeah,
be
that's why they're
dying.
up there though.
Hey, you hear that? I heard that climate change is starting to fuck with the average temperature of Mount Everest, and if it continues in the way that the models predict, then pretty soon they're gonna have to go up there and figure out how to do something with them bodies because they're gonna thaw out.
I fucking love
Isn't that shit fucking
predictive
crazy?
models.
Isn't that shit crazy?
Yeah, that is wild. Because all them bodies are just frozen up there.
Hell yeah, there's just all kinds of dead motherfuckers up there.
They use a lot of them as markers on the way up.
Hell yeah.
I've heard about one that's like, I don't know where the fuck on the mountain it is, but they call it blue boots.
Yeah.
It's a blue pair of boots. It's just marking the way.
There's a really good documentary on fucking Netflix about this. Not about this, but about people who live in that area. And like one of them that like always
They
was like,
yak.
if I could fucking choose my way to die, like in all ridiculousness and like this would never happen. But the way that they deal with their dead in the Himalayas because they're so high up, they can't move there or travel. And so like the I don't know what you call it, the villages up in the Himalayas, or at least certain ones, they do something called a sky burial, right? And the sky burial is when somebody dies, they take them and they put them out, but there's only one way to get rid of the body.
Burn it.
I can't remember why they don't burn it, but
throw it into a river.
There's no rivers. You're in the Himalayas. You're like
put it in a tree.
25,000 feet up.
Put it in a tree.
Steal the plot of up and tie a whole bunch of balloons to it.
Ooh,
Chop.
That's close.
Chop the body up.
Yes, that's where they start.
Okay, they chop the body up, and then they put your pieces into individual baggies. They go down the hill, and they sell you for other motherfuckers to smoke.
Ooh, gosh, not that morbid. But where it veins off from what you where you are is they do cut the body apart, but the reason is to attract
crackheads.
The crackheads of the Himalayas, vultures. And they attract the vultures because the only way to get rid of the body before like it decomposes, and like the best way is to have birds eat it. And so there's like they interview this man who is the man of the village who does cut up the dead bodies.
He's the chopper.
He's the one who has to do it. And he's like, he sits there and talks about how he has to drink now. And he's like basically saying like how he's become an alcoholic because he has to deal with like he knows he has this duty to the village. Like it's a passed down duty. His dad did this, like that kind of shit. Cause like these are small villages, little, but these people are living like crazy.
You think they have the internet?
No, they don't. They don't. I absolutely know they don't have the internet. They don't have electricity. They don't have, I mean, these are little villages in the Himalayas, but they need to deal with death in a way that they've had to deal with death for a long time, where they figured out like we can't like keep them around, can't bury them because the ground's too hard. It's frozen all year, so you can't bury folk. You know, you can't get into the ground. And I can't remember the burning thing. Why they can't burn? I can't remember why. But there's a reason.
Dies. So somebody dies, and then so they call Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold Schwarzenegger comes through. He's like, "Yep, this person's dead," and he goes, "Get to the chopper," and then like the chopper guy's right over there. Says, "Over here."
That's your solution for them? Bring in the Terminator for the Himalayans.
I'm over here, guys.
Bring in the Terminator.
Get to over here. That's what he's talking about. I'm over here.
Got your dead bodies.
Take it over to the vultures. He's chopped.
Yeah, yikes, spikes. But so maybe the solution to the folk up in Everest is just like release a bunch of vultures like out in that area. Like just increase the vulture population, the Himalayan vultures. Those motherfuckers got a 12-foot wingspan. That might or might not be true. But I don't want to meet no Himalayan vultures if that's like their diet is so like, I mean, because you got to think they're up there. Not a lot of animals are up there. And somebody thought like we got to just feed these people to the birds. Because they're the hungriest, and like vultures are fucking crazy.
Well, there's that
species.
There's that spot in India where they get rid of the bodies by putting them on the boats and sending them down the river. But in reality, what happens is most of the bodies just end up tipping over. They end up eventually in the water, and then whatever's in the water eats them, including these big ass catfish that have started to get to big ass sizes because they got like all kinds of bodies. That's what they said on river monsters. And you know that's accurate scientifically, down to the everything. So.
I mean, down to the like he's usually in the water where the animal lives.
He got a new show.
Did he?
Hell yeah!
Well, will be
I forget
so
what
excited.
the fuck it's called, but Jimmy Wade got a new show. Yo, have you seen Midnight Gospel? I know you haven't. Have you seen it?
No.
All right, that's Duncan Trussell's new joint. Yo, on Netflix. One of those episodes, he was talking to this lady about death. And she was talking about how disconnected American culture has become with death. Mostly because of something that happened in the Civil War. In the Civil War, all these boys were leaving, boom, to go to war, and they were dying. And so in that time, they invented embalming. So like, once they invented it, dudes like took it up as a trade to be embalming these bodies and then sending them back to their families so their families could have their own burials. Right? And then after the Civil War, the industry needed to keep going. So for a gang, they were like trying to talk people into it and really and it didn't really grab foot until like the 50s and 60s. And then in the 50s and 60s, they started doing more embalming. And then it became like a thing of somebody dies. You
Open
have
casket,
well,
that kind of
part
shit.
well, part of like the law where like you die and you have to give it to a funeral home or whatever. And then essentially what they do is they embalm them, make it so that they're not gonna
Pop.
well, deteriorate, and put makeup on them and shit, and then sell them back to you.
Ugh.
And that's like an
such a-
industry in America. And it was fucking deep, crazy. It's the way she was talking about this shit. And I was like, God damn, that's so fucking nuts. Because, they talk about how, like, now we even think, like, about how a dead body is, like, to us. We even think, like, almost like, oh, my God, they're dead. They must be, like, dangerous almost. Right? And that's a real American thing to feel. And that in reality, once somebody dies, they become like a lot safer. So even if they were like sick or whatever, the moment they die, they stop coughing. You know what I mean? They stop sneezing. They stop breathing out all the stuff. Like they inherently become X amount of times safer the moment that somebody dies. And it was just like this crazy thing about like just this crazy thought about like imagine a parent dying or something, or a friend dying, or somebody really, really close. Not just a friend, like somebody really, really, really close, family member or something dying. You know what I mean? And or maybe that's a friend to you, but whatever. But just somebody so close that like you're there when they die, right? And then it's like, should you have time with this person's body?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you never really think about it because you try not to think about who's dying. But imagine if somebody, you know what I mean, died in front of you and it was like a thing. Like is it automatic you call somebody to grab the body? Because, from there, they don't, by the time anybody sees the body, it's on some real, you know what I mean, extra. And it's like, talked about how like motherfuckers that do have experiences with their family members post-death in those kinds of situations, and they have the freedom to have however much time they need, that those people always call it like a good experience, and always recall it as like a really good thing, and thankful that they got that shit. You know what I'm saying?
We have an interesting view. I think the majority view of
It's
death.
fucking crazy, B.
Yeah. It's crazy in this country.
And and what it made me think of too is it's crazy because I feel like I've dealt with a lot of death in different kinds of ways, and I've been to a lot of different funerals in the last 5 years. And one thing that I've noticed is that like one of the things that I do is like once they're dead and they go to the funeral home and they come back, I feel like they always look. I don't like the way that dead bodies look in that situation. I feel like they no longer look like the person I knew. And so I have no interest in going to the wakes, or, you know what I mean? And going to the viewings and seeing, I don't want to do that. I'll be there for the entire funeral, but I don't need to see you. I want to remember you as I remembered you. Like that's what I want to be alive, and I don't want my brain to be consumed with like, because it took a while for me to stop thinking of my grandpa dead.
Yeah.
That haunted me for a while.
Haunted you.
Yeah. And not like a gang, but a little bit. It haunted me for a while. And
I don't think I got comfortable with that, like, or even found like a real value in it, like you're saying, until my grandmother died, and where I never got to see her very much. She grew up with me, but she always lived at least a couple 100 miles away, if not thousands of miles away from me. And so when I like got the call, she passed away. She had been sick, so I kind of knew it was coming, but I was living in Florida, so I had to like drop everything and like bounce. But like the opportunity to get to see her one more time and pay some, like, even though she's not conscious or like there, it also was like my opportunity to like pay some last respects, like say some things, like get some things off that I couldn't when she was conscious,
Yeah, no doubt.
And it was really tough because I was always the same way as you were. I'm like, nah, I don't need that. I really do respect the funeral process, all this, like, but I never really wanted to do that until like I did go and take the time. I did go and stand there and like wait till the end of the line so I could have my own time and like stand there and like, you know, just have that moment with her, that last moment that I didn't get to have because I wasn't around when she was, you know, like I had seen her a couple months before, and she was in the hospital when I saw her. And so like to get to go there and like do that one last time and like get everything off that I didn't get the chance, you know, I thought was a privilege. And I never really thought about like the whole, like, cause that, I mean, it was pretty quick, but I don't know if that's like the natural decaying process of a body to be able to like stay that fresh.
Yeah, no, but again, I think that was the point of what she was saying. She's like, you know, that a lot of other cultures have a lot more realistic aspect of what happens, and that we have a really unrealistic viewpoint of even how death happens. You know what I mean? And you watch a movie about how a death happens and how somebody dies. It's always like this weird little thing. There's never like that death rattle or any kind, you know what I mean? Any kind of reality and like how a body changes the moment that the muscles are no longer holding up and there's no longer electricity on the muscles you didn't even realize are working that are holding skin up all just fall straight and the person looks entirely different. But the point is that's an important part of life is understanding, seeing, and accepting those things, and you know, an avoidance of it causes like anxiety later on about you know through unrealistic expectations.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And
shit's fucking crazy, B. Yo, if I die, they do this cremate thing where they like put a little seed in the middle or something, and then you plant that shit, and it becomes like a tree or something.
That's way better than my idea to be
hard
to be cremated and put into fireworks.
Ooh, and then you just want everybody to breathe you in. That's weird.
That's the goal.
Nah, he'd be burned up if he was in the fireworks. It'd been lit up before they breathing in gas, Eric, like on top of that. But I think to just wrap that up, our view of death in America is kind of weird. And I also think of it because like we don't celebrate death the way other cultures do in America. Some like pieces of our cultures do that have been, you know, that have come in from different countries, but like
New Orleans, they'll do whole parades for like, especially for like bigger people that like, you know, more popular people. They'll do whole parades with music and like celebrate the life.
And that's like culture from like West Indies culture, right? Like that's you know, that's brought in from the Creole culture. And but overall in America, like the general funeral that we know a funeral as, of like putting somebody through or into the ground in a casket, or, you know, just having that last stand or that last viewing and then cremating them, compared to like other cultures that are like huge celebrations of death. Like even just look as close as like Mexico and their like celebration of their like classic celebration of Dia de los Muertos. So that is like this beautiful celebration of death and like culture and like, oh, awesome. But I don't know if we have that really here. And I don't know if that's Christianity that like infiltrates that where our like culture is very like soaked in Christianity, right? Even though we're not all Christians, but we live in a Christian society in America, from who, you know, is in charge and who has been in charge for a long time. And maybe that has to do with our discomfort with death. Because Christians, I've never understood the Christian view of death. It's never made sense to me, ever. Even when I was like going to church every weekend.
Sense. It made sense when I had no other understanding of anything else.
Well, see, I guess I got one quick glimpse of Buddhism when I was a kid, and that always made more sense to me than God ever did. Like reincarnation always made more sense to me in one way or another than like heaven, than heaven ever did. Right. And like, I don't know why, but I remember that was like the first time I remember feeling like a connection to Buddhism. And now like I do consider myself like a Buddhist. Nice catch.
Going back to death real quick.
Yeah.
No, man, like one of the things that I've noticed about like, especially about culture, right, is again in the past like five years, I've gone to many different funerals. Too many funerals. And the thing is that two of them in particular were in New Mexico, and they were my auntie and my uncle at different times. a few years apart.
The affiliated auntie and uncle, like the couple?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but a few years apart. Auntie first. And the thing is so they were buried at the same church that my dad wants to be buried at. In rural New Mexico, literally in the middle of nowhere, a bunch of dirt roads, side roads around, extra boom at the base of a mountain. And they, that's so when you think about that, it's like, okay, yeah, of course. Well, somebody's got to dig the holes, right? And then somebody's got to fill the holes. As far as when somebody dies and somebody goes into these cemeteries. Now, a cemetery out there, it's out literally in the middle of nowhere, right? Well, the construction company, we just grab me like a Modelo or something normal.
Not the last one that we had. Whatever. I like the other Eastbound and Down that I brought. Not the one that we just had. I'll actually do, the other Eastbound and Down.
I just want a Modelo.
That West. Well, that was supposed to be
It's
the West.
Modelo time, fool.
Then I was tricked again.
All right. And so this is in the middle of nowhere again. And so in the middle of nowhere, you have to ask somebody if you don't want to dig them by hand with a shovel. You have to ask somebody with the proper equipment. The closest people with the proper equipment happened to me, my cousins on my other side of my family, right? Who are very familiar with the area. They're very familiar with there. Boom. My cousin's my cousin's the one who does it. It's my uncle's construction company. Well, was. My cousin now. My other cousin was the one who does it, right? So he did it on Sunday. The funeral's in the weekday. Both times. And so there was no, he wasn't able to be there to fill it back up, right? So in my auntie's funeral, we, being me, my cousins, and my uncles, put my auntie into the ground, into the hole that my other cousin, unrelated to this family, had dug for us. Put her in, and then me and my cousins filled the hole. And in the middle of filling the hole, immediately among my cousins, it became a competition. And so that's how we did it quick. We didn't, but some of my uncles, we did it in about an hour and a half. It took us, just with shovels, just filling 6 feet of dirt.
It's a lot of space.
And it became like a competition of trying to do it fast. But there was a lot of moments where I was like, man, that's my auntie in there, And I was, even especially seeing my uncle do it, I'm like, yo, like somebody grabbed the shovel from him. That's his wife, and that was why he wanted to. And it was it's an entirely different kind of relationship, because again, all these other funerals I've gone to that were not in that rural area, which is basically going back in time, because it's all it is. It's just going back in time to way more normal times, right? That's what people were way more used to doing that shit than they are what we've gotten used to, as far as just seeing a body. Maybe we're there. We even go to where they take the body, and then we might even watch other people do it, but nobody ever watches the dirt cover.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? You could throw the first pieces of dirt or whatever, but it's different to, imagine covering somebody. And then so she died. That happened. I went to a few since then, and then my uncle died, and the same type of thing happened. But the difference was that my uncle, who owns the construction company on the other side of my family, well, one of his best friends in high school was my uncle that passed. And they knew each other real well. They'd always kept in touch. They'd always known each other. And I think they even went to Vietnam together.
Holy shit.
And it was and it was a whole different thing. And then so when he died that time, not only did we lower this dude in, we lowered this dude in. And we're lowering him in this wooden casket made by one of the families, the other rancher families around, that the exact way my uncle would have wanted it to be, right? Made out of a wooden casket like that. We put him down. Boom. As we're putting him down, none of us had ever done it before like that. We weren't really good. Something happened. We got stuck, snagged, whatever. It had to be fixed, whatever. And my dad jumped in, fixed it. And I reached in and I grabbed my dad and I pulled him out. And like I could see it in my dad's face when he jumped in, and then when he looked at me in the face, like there was a part of him when he realized he needed help to get out where he was, you know?
Fuck.
And so when I grabbed him, I even saw it like in his face, and I pulled him right back up, and I saw him like just try to shake it right off and try to be normal and stuff. And I'm like, dude, that was, it's your brother. You were just standing on him for your last time, And everybody got complicated relationships with everybody. But again, and then, we started putting the first pieces of dirt on. We filled it the first little bit. And then once it's filled up just a little bit, now my uncle, who owns a construction company, is now there. He could do the rest. Right? So I watch him push the rest of the dirt. And in my mind, I'm thinking about that. Like, man, how many other people have to do that? Like push the dirt on their homies when they pass. Again, we let that shit go so much now that like I've gone to a bunch of funerals and you don't do that anywhere else. But I watched my uncle do it to his homie. Yeah. In a hole I pulled my dad out of. That I threw dirt in right next to where I fucking just years before did the same thing for my auntie, except for we didn't have my uncle then. It was the middle of the day. They were out of a job or middle of the week. So me and my cousins had to do it.
Yeah. And I think that's the intimacy that's necessary, or at least that I've experienced. Because the same way for you, it's like I've experienced funerals from a distant view, in terms of I was there for the funeral and then it ends. But then as soon as you're like part of a funeral, at least for me, that's when, like, when I was part of my grandma's funeral, like part of it was also like driving to the fucking cemetery from the church with some old man I never met that could only tell me stories about my grandfather and not my grandmother. Which I appreciated the stories about my grandfather, which were cool. But it's also like my grandmother's behind me, like literally right behind me for the last time. And you're telling me stories about her husband. But then also we're there and like, there's no other way to
How
get
old
that.
were you?
This was 4 years ago.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And there's no other way to get that casket from the car to the hole. And so like it's raining and like shit and it's all muddy out there.
Carry it.
I don't know if you've ever been to the cemetery up in Raton over on our side of town, but it's just like a big like kind of hill, like on the base of the mountain, about like a half mile from our spot. And we're out there and like it's all fucking slippery and like trying to like move a fucking casket, even with a lady that like weighed maybe.
And it monsoons when it rains out there.
And it wasn't that bad. It was, but it was just muddy, right? And like trying to walk in dress shoes with no tread. Nobody's got any like good shoes on for this because we were all just in the church, literally from the church right to the cemetery. And you get them in there, and then they had like a machine there that lowered her down. Then they like placed
and you
like,
crank it, the cranker.
It was like automated. I think there was like maybe there was a crank.
Man, that's fancy.
I don't know. It was the Catholic Church, and I don't think they spared any expenses for my grandma. You got 9 children. You got 9 children.
It looks elaborate.
They're
it
gonna
looks
get
elaborate,
the button.
like when they put it all
They're gonna
together.
get
But
the
it's a
button
crank.
And honestly, though, the button in Raton actually might be the crank. The crank might be about as fancy as it gets. But yeah, with some mechanism that like lowers them down. You don't have to like do the like rope over the shoulder, like, but it puts them down there. And then I don't remember. Actually, I wasn't there for the dirt going on. It was we did because like Catholics do some shit when that happens. The priest is there and like he follows you to the cemetery and does their thing in their last words, and there's some tossing of some things, and that was it. And then I don't remember what happened with like it getting filled. I guess I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, it typically happens when everybody's gone.
Yeah, because it's something like you said. I was thinking about that when you said that, where like a lot of the pain of this stuff, like throwing the dirt on the casket, is leveraged out, like sold out. Like you make somebody else do it because it's hard. Like what you did, it like not a lot of people are willing to do that because they don't see the privilege of it.
Well, when I talked to my cousin Ben about it later on, and I told him that, I was like, yo, like that's how I felt. He had like a moment because he hadn't thought about it. And then when he did, he had a moment, and I'm sure he's probably had a moment since. But at the time, he was like, I was just like competing with y'all. Like, it was just work. It was on the way back.
Do you think any of that had to do with like just covering up the emotion of like knowing what they're doing and being able to be like, I can focus on throwing dirt as the competition of this,
dude. But let me tell you, so my people always talk about their families are different and this and that, and everybody's families, I know they be different, but there is something inside of our gene pool that has to do with work, especially with work specifically, and there's a competition to stuff, but especially when it comes to like the work the hardest. So when, maybe with other people that would be a thing for like distraction, but I think for my family, it's not like
that's expectation.
It's like immediately once there's a competition, it's like that's because again I kind of fell on it right away too. It took me a moment to realize what was going on.
Sure.
And it was like when I grabbed, what it was is I started feeling like my back was hurting, and so my dad grabbed the shovel for a second, and I like let go, and I and I went and stretched for a second, and then when I saw my dad doing it, I was like, nah, let me do it. And so I went and grabbed the shovel back from my dad, and when I did that, it was like a slow moment when I like threw it in. I looked at it, and you could see all the dirt, each little bit, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, and I'm like, right under there, on the other side of that thin fucking tin poly fucking whatever the fuck it's made of, is my auntie. Or right there on the other side of the
or
piece,
at least
the pieces of planks of wood right there with cracks. Like I'm like seeing the dirt going through cracks, and I'm like, that's falling onto my uncle.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, that's
it's weird. It's important to be close to death, I think, at points in your life, and maybe it's not so much when you're young.
But yeah, for sure.
And again, yeah, absolutely. It's hard to be overwhelmed by it, but it's not that. Not like it sucks, like because like experiencing death is like I experienced too little, not too little. That's dumb to say, but I never really experienced any close deaths. I experienced a couple deaths that are like that aunt, that uncle that you never met, or that you met once, and it's like, oh, bummer. But then like I even had grandparents die that I was like, well, I met them like 5 times, and I lived in Minnesota while they were alive.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And then, I never even met my grandfather. He died before I was even born on my dad's side, where my grandmother was the only, that was the only person I knew from that generation of my family was my grandmother.
Huh.
Right. And this is also coming from like a patriarchal, like Roman Catholic family.
Oh, so that's why it bothered you so much to hear about your grandpa during your grandma.
It didn't bother me. The stories that dude told me, I don't want to like run it out. I could tell the story. He told a fucking great story. A couple of them.
You can hold some for now, but yeah,
I mean, I wasn't like upset at the time. I wasn't like, fuck this dude. How dare you not say something about my grandma during this time? I wasn't like that at that time. But like looking back, I was just like, dang, I wish I could have heard more stories about my grandmother, but I don't. Like in that regard, like where people, because the way that people talk about my grandfather, like the story he talks about is like an immigrant saying that when they asked him who the president was, an immigrant, an Italian that's come into the area, and they got to give you this citizenship exam back in the day, and they would ask you who the president was, and he answered Joe DiLisio, my great grandfather, as who the president was, and that was his like fun story along with a couple others he told. But she also took over that family, like as the matriarch, as soon as he died.
Grandma?
Yeah, and that's what I always knew, which is always why I love her. She's amazing, and I have so much respect for her and what she's done in her life and what she did for my life. And like there was times we didn't get along when she was alive, and we ended in a better place, hopefully, thankfully. But I don't know, death is weird. And that was the first time I got to like have that intimate experience with death, where it wasn't just like I went to the funeral. It was I was in the funeral. I was carrying a casket. I was doing all that stuff where you have, and then when I did go up and see her, even before I carried that casket out there, it was like, I mean, my own spiritual like movement of like understanding moved since the last time I had to like be in a funeral. But being able to like stand in front of her like that and like, I mean, it was, I needed that. and that I got to have it, it definitely let the grieving process move forward way faster. That I got to do that, where if I didn't get to like stand in front of her and like see, even though it's just like, in my opinion, the fucking vessel that a consciousness was in, it's just fucking matter, right? Even at that point, and at all points, I guess, but it's just this matter there but it's still everything that I know is her, and like my last chance to be in front of that memory, right? Yeah. And so I'm gonna suck it in, like I'm gonna be there.
Well, she's in there. She's got no power going. What about you, Eric? How you feel about death? Are we over here freaking you out?
I know.
I think I'm on a little bit on the same camp as Steven. I've been fortunate enough to not have like deaths happen like around me. We barely have any family here. To start off with, like we've had family in Mexico that like have died.
But met you didn't know him really
when I was 3 or something like that before we came out here.
And then he died when you were a teenager and shit.
Yeah, so they're like, your Theo like passed away, and I'm like, oh, I remember him.
I remember, yeah.
I remember you telling me about me meeting him.
I've heard that name, yeah.
You showed me that picture.
I have so many cousins. My parents will do that sometimes. They'll be like, oh my gosh. Oh, they'll be like, and I'm going to make up a name to not fuck with any of my cousins. But they'll be like, oh, fucking Timothy. He was in a car accident.
My fucking cousin's name.
Timothy was in a car accident, and it's not looking okay. We don't know if he's gonna make it. And I remember that literally this is a moment that happened in my life. I'm probably like a senior in high school, and I looked at my mom. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, Mom. Who the hell is Timothy? And she's like, your cousin in Houston or something. And I'm like, I have no idea who this person is. Yeah. No idea what you're talking about. Whatever memory you have of them at being 4 years old, they're obviously not 4 years old anymore. I have no idea what you're talking. I'm like fucking 12th grade. She's talking about a cousin I have who's fucking 41 at the time. But probably 50, 55 now. I don't know how old these people are. I don't know what's going on. And I'm glad he's all right. I still don't know him. If you gave me a lineup of 6 dudes right now, I would literally be looking at them by like, which one of y'all look like could be my cousin? Like, I have no idea what he looks like. Which one of y'all look like you could be my cousin?
Yeah. So, Eric, I'm curious, just in the death you have experienced, like, have you gone to any kind of funerals or anything like that out here, like, since you've been alive? Like, have you had that connection to actually be at like a ceremony or a celebration of death?
So the only one that I can really think of that I have been to some sort of I wasn't awake, it was just mass for was actually a high school teacher. He was a science teacher. I had him for the first 2 years of high school. My last 2 years he was sick, he stopped teaching, some stuff happened, and
R.I.P.
the school, like my graduating class had like 50 people in it. So we're all like, we all knew each other, we all knew the teacher, so it was like a really big thing, especially because half of the people in that class had them that first year as like homeroom. But it was that, and then we did the school hosted like a little bit of a gathering, just bring people in that he knew, speak about it outside of like the church, and then
party?
No, it was just
a wake,
a parking lot outside of a club.
Y'all have a party when I die. Gig City.
Oh yeah. That's what I'm trying to be fired up into a firework.
Oh,
that's tight.
That's weird.
I like
to breathe you in accidentally.
I don't think nobody. I mean, maybe I do want to breathe in Eric one last time.
You know what it was? You know what made me want to be a tree was that Neil deGrasse Tyson answered that question from somebody about what he would want, and he said he had this like more profound thought than I was expecting. I was like, damn, you know what? I really agree with that. And he said about how like, the way that I feel, and it's kind of the way that I feel is that there's, it's just your meat vehicle, and inside of it is this complex set of chemicals and electricity. And once the electricity is turned off, you know, so do the chemicals and everything that was about. All the info and data that was stored there is now gone. But you know what? These cells came from somewhere, right? They came from the things that I ate, from the things my mom ate, from like all these different cells came from all the, you know, it's a recycling of doing this. And when you cremate yourself, you break yourself down to the smallest molecules that are not able to like as like easily recycle back into life the way you would have you naturally just fall in the woods.
Speeds that.
And that, you know, he said
process
that if he has a choice, it would have to be about like going out, you know, in that kind of way. Like even just throwing his body in the woods would be his natural way. Like take my body and throw it in the woods.
Yeah, sky burial. That's what I'm talking about.
Leave it out there.
Exactly. Is let the vultures eat me in the sky fucking variable.
Or
Use
use my ashes and all those dead cells
to be the nutrients for the tree,
nutrients for the tree.
Of nitrogen and carbon is what your ashes become.
And then you literally, and then the tree grows, and you know the basis of that tree is literally what you were.
And that exactly,
you know what
when
I mean?
I was like 11, when I heard about reincarnation, that thought is what got me into it. Was that like I saw that there's this like life
You were
process.
11 when you had that thought, huh?
I mean, I was a kid. I know I was not in high school.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was.
I mean, it wasn't like profound where I was like, oh my gosh, all of fucking Buddhism and like makes sense to me. It was just more like I saw the scientific process of like how that general like circle works, right? Of like decomposition and grows plants, things eat the plants, all that. And then I learned about Buddhism and reincarnation. And like, I just remember being able to see the connection of like, well, if that's how all of life works, of what we understand, why doesn't our life work the same way? And then you can just extend it to the spiritual part of it, because that's where it doesn't get scientific, is like reincarnation. There's no consciousness in Buddhism around like when I'm from one vessel to another, that there's like a connection.
The Vessilians.
Right? There's no connection between consciousness.
No connectillions.
But it's what in Buddhism is like more on that your consciousness.
AKA Buddhilians.
Hell yeah. Hit it. Give me another one. I thought you were going at it. Let me just keep going with the Buddha. And
I'm smoking that Buddha right now, boy.
That's it. That's it. Oh, dang.
I'm lactose intolerant, so
Sorry,
I can't
buddy.
have that Gouda.
I didn't want you to go too far into Buddhism. Save it
I
for the
wasn't
next
gonna do
episode.
nothing
Because
far.
you know what? This time, though, we're going to have to cut it short. I think because it's been the Lone Ranger versus Tonto up in this bitch.
Sure has.
And if Steven's got anything more super important besides Buddha, we'll talk about Buddha for a whole episode. Smoke all kinds of Buddha, get that Buddha going. You know what I'm talking about?
Trying to get that booty.
Buddha everywhere and shit.
That's
You know
right.
what I'm talking about?
That's right. That's actually the meditation chant that I do right there.
Yo,
You're like
Eric-
those Mexicans that are like keep finding La Rosa de Guadalupe in like tortillas and shit.
I mean, the Buddha is everywhere, Eric. Buddha. Yeah. And of course, he shows up in my spaghetti sauce. What are you talking about?
I know that's right.
But I think you're right. We should probably wrap this up. The only other thing I got to say is keep showing the love up on the social medias and the internets and stuff. All y'all out there hitting us up, talking to us on there. Keep it up. Tell your friends. Also, can people review us? Is that a thing that people can do yet? On
iTunes.
On iTunes, can people do that?
Yep.
Subscribe. How about this? Just subscribe. Whatever you're listening to us on, and whatever you have, you're like, oh, you know what? I have iTunes. I didn't even know you were on there. Go subscribe. If you're on iTunes right now and you're like, fuck, I didn't realize you guys have Spotify. Go to Spotify and subscribe. Yo, if you got Stitcher, motherfucking iHeartRadio, motherfucking all that shit.
Pandora?
All the shit.
That was a question mark at the end of that.
Yeah, no, that's still a question mark. They're the only ones who haven't approved us yet.
Pandora has podcasts?
Yeah, they have podcast area.
That's why there was a question mark.
We just migrated to the new Google Podcast, which used to be Google Play Music podcast area. Now it's got its own area. We're up in that motherfucker.
Coming up.
Whatever y'all got, we got it. Go subscribe. That's what helps us the most. Otherwise, comment, tell us what kind of beer to drink or something, and maybe we'll try it. Maybe go fuck yourself. In the meantime, it's been the Lone Ranger vs. Tonto. Been this bitch. Eric, lead us out.
I was gonna drop it, but this is way heavier than I expected it to be. See y'all next time.
Whoa, 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 before you leave, right here, look, episode right down in this motherfucker right here. Click that shit. It's my favorite episode. Literally, I'm gonna put my favorite episode right there. There's an episode right under Steven right now.
This one, my favorite beer that we've done.
And
right here.
Click right here to subscribe. Holla at your peoples. We broke it, but still holla.